are you doing today? I'm so excited to be here with you and really talk about something I get asked all the time, which is, should I do this or should I do that? And I know that sounds a little bit random, but I constantly get questions from clients, obviously asking about their business or their personal lives or just different random decisions that they need to make. And let's be honest, we all suffer from a little bit of decision fatigue. I know I do. And so sometimes that is the cause of coming to me and asking questions. Other times it's sincerely not knowing what to do. And the bigger issue is not liking the answer that you've already gotten. And so I'm going to talk about the other two, but I'm really going to focus on the last one. So if you don't already know me, my name is Africa Archield, and I'm an oracle and guide to spiritually and socially conscious women who are going out in the world to share their gifts. Sometimes you're suffering from decision fatigue, right? There's so many decisions we have to make during the day. And it's not just the decision, should I turn right or left to go to the grocery store, which is kind of halfway in between no matter which way I turn. I'm not necessarily talking about that kind of decision fatigue, even though that does add to the fatigue. I'm just talking about all the decisions we must make throughout the day that get to be a little overwhelming. I know for me, I used to get so fatigued just wondering about what should I cook for dinner? What do I serve during lunch? And then you think, okay, you could make a food plan, which I would do a menu plan at times, but other times I didn't. I would get really fatigued just from those decisions, or at least it would seem like those decisions. It was just that those were the ones that were like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was tired of making decisions about my business, about the kids, about the household, and everything else, that when it came time to decide what was for dinner, it was the last thing I wanted to think about. So there are ways to alleviate those kinds of decision fatigue that can plague anyone. Let's just be honest. Like I mentioned, I started menu planning, which meant I make the decision one time that week, and I already had gone to the grocery store, gotten everything, and everyone knew exactly what we're having for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and there was no arguing about it. But I wanted this and not that. Everyone was in on the menu planning, or if they decide not to be, too bad, so sad, the decision was made for you, right? So think about those places in your life you can simplify or make a decision that counts for a bunch of decisions you might have to make during the week or that month or that year that you can just knock out of the way all at one time. And that really helps avoid decision fatigue during more stressful times. So that was one example. I know you could go off and use that nugget to pop into the different areas of your life. Now, the same does hold true, believe it or not, for your business. So if you're a business owner and you have to make a bunch of decisions, the whole idea is to have what I call standard operating procedures. If you've ever worked corporate, you know all about them, right? Standard operating procedures eliminates decision fatigue because you're not have to make the same decision over and over again. It's you have a procedure, you've already decided what will happen if XYZ occurs. Then we're going to do A, B, and C. It's already decided for you. Okay, so why are we trying to eliminate decision fatigue? Other than getting frustrated, maybe blowing up at people, we're eliminating decision fatigue so that we have the bandwidth for when things come up that we don't have a procedure for or couldn't have a procedure for, even if we wanted one, right? That we have that bandwidth within us to make a good decision, to respond rather than to react. And I have a whole video on responding versus reacting, and if I remember, I will link that below this video. So we want to be able to have the bandwidth to respond. And when we do that, we can make good, solid decisions that then if there's something that can turn into a standard operating procedure per se, then we're able to do that and create that and move on. Other times people do come to me. I mean, I'm a coach, I'm a guide, I'm the oracle. So they do come to me to make decisions, especially they've made a decision in the past that didn't go the way that they wanted. Right, you go and you ask someone else to help you make a decision, or it's just something that you don't even know how to wrap your head around. Right? And so the first thing I do is have people really look at the decisions they've made in the past, look at any kind of historical data they may have, right? And then I want them to feel into themselves, right? That means getting quiet. That means grounding, right? Remember, I'm all about responding, not reacting. So that means to get quiet. That means to ground. And that means to listen to your intuition, to your guides, because they're always there trying to nudge you in the best direction. Now, there are times, they're not all the time, okay? But there are times where you hear nothing or it doesn't matter, right? And you get to choose, but you don't want to choose. And sometimes when you get, it doesn't matter, or, you have to choose, you don't want to choose because that means if it goes south, it's on you because you made the decision. Does that sound familiar? But owning that decision helps you build better decision-making muscles. So own all your past decisions. Don't blame it on other people because you're always at choice about what to do or what not to do. And absolutely not doing anything is still a choice. It is still a decision. Okay? So we want to build our decision-making muscle. We want to learn how to trust our intuition, even when it's saying it doesn't matter which way you go. You can go left or you can go right. You're going to get to the same place at the same time. Okay? So just pick one. And know this too, and before I get to the last thing, know this too, that even though we may go off on little bunny trails, or I call them side quests, right? Even though we go off on these little side quests, we're going to end up at the destination we're supposed to end up at, okay? All right, so we've talked about decision fatigue. We talked about when people come to me to help them make decisions and how really stopping so you respond rather than react can really be useful in making those decisions, and really being quiet and listening to your intuition, listening to your guides, and getting toward an answer. And that even sometimes that answer is you choose, right? So learn to own your decisions. I would love it if you would like this video and subscribe so you never miss another musing or channeling or meditation or whatever else I do on the channel. Now, I told you there was a last thing that people come to me for. And this is when I ask them, okay, what's going on? They tell me, and they even tell me the solution. And so then I'm wondering, why are you coming to me? Now, sometimes they're coming because they don't like the answer, right? They don't like the answer. The solution is not the solution they want. They've been still, they've been quiet, they listen to their intuition. They don't like what their intuition told them. It's uncomfortable. Have you ever been in that where the answer you got was not the one you wanted? Now, if it's something more benign, sometimes we learn things best in contrast. What we realize is the right thing to do by intuition or logic, and hopefully those two match together. But let's say it's one or the other, even both. We're like, but I don't like that. I don't like that answer. I don't like that at all. And so there's going to become this time you're going to learn when you're being shown to do something by contrast, i.e., you get to, whereas maybe you went to it thinking, I don't care one way or another about which way this goes. I just need to know what the best way is. And only by the contrast of being told one thing, you realize, no, I really like this other one a whole lot better. That's what I mean by contrast in this situation. So, for instance, because I'm outside, I'm looking at a grill, right? So here's a charcoal grill and here's a propane grill. Which one do you want to grill your food on tonight? You want to do the charcoal? You want to do the propane? And you're getting quiet. You're listening to your intuition, and it says charcoal. And you're like, ugh, I hate the charcoal grill. Oh my gosh, every time I use it, I have to clean it out from all the old charcoal, and then I've got to put in the new charcoal and some kindling to help it all get started, because I don't like using lighter fluid. And you're going all the reasons you hate using the charcoal grill. And to me, this is always the divine's way of saying, why'd you ask me in the first place? I just showed you the option you didn't like, right? There's the learning by contrast. You already had a preference. You were just trying to fake to yourself that you didn't have a preference, or by being pointed to the thing that you don't really prefer, you remembered all the reasons you didn't want to use it in the first place, right? So to me, it's kind of like the mind going, why'd you ask? You already knew the answer, right? Sometimes we get that answer that we don't like or that we feel kind of nervous about because we are afraid. We're afraid of what it means. It's moving into the unknown a lot of times. It makes us uncomfortable because it is quote unquote out of control, meaning we don't know how to control it to do what we want to do with that decision. And yes, sometimes you're asked to step out on faith into something you don't know about and still move forward. And to me, it's like there's a different feeling in my body when it's I'm teaching you by contrast because you already really knew the answer and you shouldn't have asked in the first place kind of thing, versus when it's I'm being asked to step out and do something else, right? It's not, when I'm being asked to step out and do something else, I usually have a lot of fear with this kernel of excitement, right? That's how it feels for me. A ton of fear, and then in the middle is this kernel of excitement trying to push away the fear. When I'm being asked to step into something I've never done before, I don't know anything about, right? Versus when I'm being shown, hey, you already know the answer. You already actually have a preference, and that preference is fine. Okay? So a lot of times I think people come to me when they already really know the answer, like they've already gotten the feedback. They're coming to me for confirmation. Am I seeing what they already know to be true? And most of the time, yeah, I'm going to tell them the same thing. Especially if they're not being forthcoming, I'm going to end up telling them the same thing. And sometimes when we go through it, because I always want to lead people back to their own knowing. I find that I will pull cards from my clients. I will sit and I will channel for my clients whenever they want to. And I also want them to learn to pull their own cards and them to pull in information for themselves, because it is that important. I'm not always around, right? And I want them to be independent of me, right? But it takes some training and it takes some time getting used to hearing your own intuition. And so I really encourage you practicing listening to your intuition, discerning it from maybe your logic side, right? Trying to figure out, there's these different, I always say there's the different people inside of me talking. And I'm not talking about multiple personalities. There's just different parts of yourself that I always think are competing for dominance. Part of it is your soul, your intuition. Part of it is your ego and your intellect, right? All these different parts competing for dominance on who's driving the bus today. And for me, I'm always trying to let my intuition drive the bus. But notice I say I'm always trying to let my intuition drive the bus. I get to decide which facet is driving the bus, which is a whole nother facet, right? I am my own facet, looking at all these other facets of me, saying, okay, you get to drive the bus today. You guys sit in the back seat. And sometimes I want maybe my intuition being in the driver's seat and my logic being in the passenger seat, so they can work together to navigate through somewhere. They can come to an understanding and help me get to the next stage. There's all sorts of different combos, all sorts of different ways that can be played with, and I guess I could make another video about that at another time. But this video is about decisions, making them, and very much, again, I will have a video below this one on responding versus reacting. And I know sometimes people are like, but in the moment, I need to make a decision. Many of the clients I talked about during this video, where they're asking me decisions seemingly on the fly, it's because they're in one of my coaching programs where we connect via a voice app called Voxer, and they're able to reach out to me at any time. So definitely, if you're interested in doing that, check out the links below. When you have a standard operating procedure, and I talked about them in business, but you can have them in your life too. And in fact, I encourage you to have them in your life. And again, then you're responding based on that SOP versus doing some kind of knee-jerk reaction without having the time to sit through and think through how you want to respond by having your intuition come up and guide you. SOPs are amazing. They present you with these beautiful guardrails that you can use with decision making. There's this one mentor I had in the past who really talked a lot about it when it comes to making decisions around money, especially with couples. Like, okay, we've made this decision. Our standard operating procedure is if it's something up to $100, we don't need to ask each other about it. We just go do it, right? And again, that became a standard operating. That amount can be different for everyone, by the way. I just said 100 because 100 seems good right now. But that kind of standard operating procedure works well for couples who have joint accounts and still want to be able to go and do things independent without asking for permission from the other one, right? That's how a standard operating procedure could work in your life. So definitely take those up. Again, it helps with decision fatigue. It helps you to respond rather than react. And as long as you've sat with it, and your intuition will pop up and tell you if you need to do something outside of your standard SOP, by the way. As long as you take the time to learn where your intuition speaks to you from. So I'm going to take like 2 seconds to talk about this. More than 2 seconds. Sometimes you hear people say, I had a gut feeling, right? Maybe their intuition comes from their guts. Maybe it comes from their heart, like they have this feeling in their heart. My intuition speaks to me for somewhere else. And I always say this, but when I channel, that's yet a different place altogether. So when I'm asking my intuition for information, it doesn't come from the same feeling in my body when I'm channeling. It comes from a completely different area. And you're going to learn that sometimes, depending on the type of decision, your intuition's you'll feel your intuition in a different place in your body. And it's a really good thing to ask your intuition about different things where you're not desperate to make a decision quickly, to see where you feel in your body the answers coming from. Right? And then when you need to make a decision quickly, when you're trying to respond quickly, and you feel it in that part of your body where your intuition lives for that kind of thing, you'll know that's from your intuition and not your logic and not your little like amphibian type brain, your lizard brain, trying to put you into reaction mode. All right, I've said so many things in this video, and I would love to hear your thoughts. What was your biggest aha in the video? What kind of standard operating procedures are you going to use in your life or in your business? All right, with all of that, I say peace, joy, love.